something weird at the sociology panel, so
Like the case 2 years ago.
yeah, I was mentioning that. So I'm going to talk very briefly about what the panel is about.
Alright, well, this is a panel that I guess was my brainchild about 3 or 4 years ago here in AWA. I was just like, there's never been a panel about the social aspects of cosplay. Because like we do craftsmanship panels, and wig panels, and armor panels, and they're all well and great, but what about like all the weird social stigmas that we encounter, or what about our interactions as cosplayers, or what about the etiquette of like non-cosplaying people when they meet cosplaying people, so there's always so much to talk about, and every year this panel seems to get bigger and bigger. So this year I was like, I invited all my friends to come and do it with me, because everybody has a different opinion. And the one thing about this panel that's really great is I always ask for audience participation. It's not...
Set that up, maybe. People can come up to that night.
Yeah, definitely. It's not like we're just sitting up here lecturing you. Like, we want your opinion, we want your questions. We want to ask questions to you and have you answer them, because you guys are cosplayers. Or you want to be cosplayers if you haven't. So, alright, we're setting up this night.
Yeah, and this is like a total honesty panel. Like, people have some pretty weird stuff before.
That's why it's so late. It's definitely not a PG panel.
But say, are we all grown-ups here?
Before we start, I want to get this out of the way. Thanks, Charlie. Good beer.
Isn't that
about to say, who brought me lunch?
doesn't know yet. Hey, do you want everyone to introduce themselves?
Yes. Absolutely. Let's start. My name's Elisa.
How long have you been cosplaying?
Oh God, about 15 years.
All right, try again.
She's gonna tell you everything.
You cosplay everything.
I can't,
It's too many to name right now.
Well, my name's Eric, and I'm a recovering. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, wrong meeting. My name is Derek. As some of my other panelists turned around and said, "Are you Dragon Ball, Derek?" That is me. I have a big Goku hair that you may have seen.
You've ever seen the muscular guy with the foam Goku hair?
Yes.
You're meeting him tonight. Dun dun dun.
Yes, it is that scary. So I'm famous for that. I've done a lot of anime costumes, do a lot of superhero costuming as well. I'm going to address a little bit about being a guy in the cosplay world, and go and pass this over.
Yes, I'm Yaya. I've been cosplaying for 12 years, and actually when I started, Elisa was one of the sites that I saw. And so yeah, we have some cosplay legends here on this panel. Pretty awesome. And I don't know, I feel like I've seen it all. I've cosplayed in the USA, I've cosplayed outside of the USA, and I've been in contests, I've judged contests, I've been a volunteer at cons, I've been a guest at cons, I've been just an attendee, I've been a vendor, been an artist. Like, I've done a lot of things relating to conventions and cosplay. So it's like a lot of stories to tell, and we'll see what comes out tonight.
Hi, I'm Miko, and I usually go by Evalie online. I've been cosplaying since 2004. I guess like the thing that's unique about me is I'm a PhD student in computer science, and I do a bunch of other weird things. So I'm really good at managing my time and like having a professional life, and how that interfered with like having a hobby like this, because sometimes people weren't really thrilled with that. And with Allison at the end there, and another girl, Amanda, we run events here. Usually we're doing the Oron Host Club Takeover tomorrow, this girl, and we're doing like the Death Note Murder Mystery tomorrow as well. So you'll see us there too. So we can tell you a lot about organizing events and managing big groups of people and things like that as well.
I like to everything I was going to say.
I'm Amanda. I'm androgynous. I go by Kichara online. I actually am pretty well known for just crossplay, since I've gotten a steady boyfriend that's changed, and now I'm doing lots of girls. So I know a lot about cross-playing. I've also done a lot of panels and events at cons, and helped run a lot of cosplay events and whatnot for different conventions. I've been cosplaying since 2003.
Hi, I'm Monica. I've only been cosplaying for 6 years. I'm also only 18, so I go to Georgia Tech, so I have to manage a lot of making my costumes and being a slave to the engineer school at the same time. So that's all.
It is dramatic.
Hi, I'm Allison. I'm one of the other thirds of We Go for Kyo. I've been cosplaying since 2004, and yeah, I have the shark. It's Nico Shark. I
She's the shark. The shark's name is Mako.
I'm the Mako Wrangler, and I'm so honored.
Does a shark need an explanation? Like you
This is an air shark. It flies. Does it need another explanation? No. By the way, I should mention, is everyone in here a grown up? Yes. Is anyone in here offended by foul language?
I am. No.
Okay, if you want to get that out, get the hell out.
That's actually what brought me here. I got to throw you out. Sorry.
Oh, dang it.
Because this is a sociology panel, and we are just really honest.
And Allison, what did you just start with your art school?
Oh, yes. I actually was an art major in college, and me and Miko and Amanda are third We Go for Kyo. On Thursday, we actually launched Con Season, which is a shoujo manga about cosplay, which can be found at conseasoncomic.com. I'll have cards at the end of the
Ooh.
Shameless plug. All right, shameless. Change it down now. Okay, good. Why is no one standing to ask questions?
Yeah,
go sit down now because our heels are killing us.
get up here.
All the way. No problem. I don't care. I got it.
Well, this time to something. I turned them on. I'll try it down. Hi. I think you have to turn it on.
It was doing feedbacky things.
Yes.
Everybody scoot that way.
Oh, no, you're awesome.
Sorry, the problem I'm having some of the panelists, which is all my fault, sorry.
Whoa, Nico.
You ready to go?
All right, you're good, dude.
Well, the good news is we have 2 hours until midnight. And actually, we can stay longer than that, I think, because there are no other panelists beside us.
I don't know, they usually kick us out. Let's get started.
Well, the thing about sociology is, the first thing I want to ask is, to get a feel of who's in the room with us. How many of you guys cosplay? Raise your hand. That's a good amount. I wish I saw more. Every single hand should be up. By next year, you guys need to come back and every single hand needs to be up, okay? All of you need to cosplay because it's an amazing artistic, creative hobby. It's a much better way to spend your free time than 90% of the things that you could do out there. I can't stress it enough. First and foremost, cosplay is an art form. It might be fun to get dressed up as your favorite character, it might be fun to take pictures, but the thing that I try to advocate the most about cosplay is actually making your own costumes. It will make it so much more fulfilling for you, and you will feel so much more proud when you are walking down the hall with an outfit that you've created yourself. Every single one of us on this panel, we make all of our own costumes and have been for the entire time we've been cosplaying. And I feel like, for somebody like Lisa and me, who've been doing this for over 10 years, the only reason we're still doing this is because we make our own stuff, right? Like, it would be boring as hell. It would be like the drama would not be worth it to stick it out in this community if we weren't challenged by the creative aspects. So that's, I want to get that in. It's so important. And then, I wanted to ask, how long have you guys been cosplaying? Raise your hand if you've been cosplaying for more than 2 years. Okay. How about more than 5 years? Only 2 hands, 3, 4.
That's right, Megan.
End of this year, it's 5.
Yes.
5 counts. 5 counts.
It's okay though. That's okay. 5 okay. It's all right because the great thing about cosplay is that now you have so many more resources available to you than say when we first started. There are tutorials out there for everything. If you want to learn how to do armor or wigs or sewing or anything, you can go online and Google it. Okay, it's so easy. People have spelled it out for you. So
And I always feel like,
I feel like well, back in the day, we had to walk to Joann's in the snow with no shoes on and figure out to draft our own patterns, and we didn't even know how to dye a wig.
That's totally true though. Like when we started in 2004, like that was just when people figured out how to dye wigs.
exactly, like,
And there weren't many colors. Like I don't think you could get that wig at that time. Like there was just like the 8 basic colors, and anyone who had a blue wig had the same powder blue wig because that was the only blue that existed. And yeah, so it's interesting how like over time, like there's been these like sort of innovators that first figured out how to like reverse engineer Sharpies to make wig dye, and then other people figured out all sorts of other things, how to make resins for cheap or just all sorts of stuff. And that's what Yaya means when she said like it's become easier because people keep trying new things in this field. Like most people come into cosplay never knowing how to sew. Who knew how to sew before you made your first costume? That's more than I would have expected. Because usually people, that's one of the most interesting things with the hobby, is that you learn as you go. Like people come in having no skills in it at all and teaching themselves everything. Everybody's kind of like self-supporting and going to the community for support because, as you all probably figured out, anime and video game characters have impossible things happening that you don't find in a regular pattern, and you gotta kind of be innovative about it. But I sort of told this guy he'd ask a question, and then we started talking, so do you want to still come up? And
Yes.
I feel bad you're waiting.
No, it's fine.
you gotta make sure to turn on the mic and then
Don't
turn it
worry.
off afterwards.
It's kind of feedback.
Don't worry. Well, I can always try to jack into directly to those mics.
Well, I moved it back a little bit, so
Doesn't
hopefully it
show
won't feedback anymore.
Okay, so yeah.
This is Sheldon, jack into it. Basically, my question is about what do you think about the evolution of the entire community as a whole? I actually see different things being split apart in regions, as well as some of the differentials abroad, such as when I was speaking with Ambassador Sakurai, he was talking about how there's rise in cosplay couples, especially in European countries, and I was wondering how we see some of the interactions from around the world affecting cosplay inside the United States.
Okay, great question to start off, I guess. And very comprehensive topic. The evolution of cosplay. I want to do a panel on the history of cosplay, especially in the last 10-15 years in the United States. Because just in the United States, it's changed a lot. Like it's progressed tremendously because of the internet, phenomenon exploding. Everybody having access to things like Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Flickr, all of that jazz. Cosplay really has gone from being like a thing in Japan and then migrated over to the United States to now it is a global phenomenon, and cosplayers from different countries can meet each other online. They can Skype each other, they can watch each other on DeviantArt, they can, send emails, and like the lines are completely blurred. As a result, first and foremost, I think the craftsmanship has gone up tremendously. Like things that were impressive 10 years ago really don't hold a candle up to what cosplayers can produce today. Like I said, because of the tutorials out there. A fresh-faced cosplayer who's only been doing it for a couple of years, or even for 1 year, can make as impressive costumes as people who've been doing it for 10 years, because they know how. Like we've done the groundwork for them. We've paved the path for the newcomer cosplayer to have a much easier time at creating. But also I feel like the face of cosplay has changed in that it's nice, and now it's a lot about like, you know, what media sites can I get put on? Who could interview me for whatever article, or, you know, like when you're like San Diego Comic-Con, even Entertainment Weekly had an interest in costumers and set up a studio where they, you know, photograph costumers. But, you know, ultimately who got put in the book, that was totally like left up to some person who had no knowledge whatsoever about cosplay. So it's like, and it's like things are evolving. It's, you know, you'll see cosplay a lot more on medias, and especially in the next couple of years, you'll see it on television, maybe even movies. Morgan Spurlock, he made a documentary about Comic-Con, and cosplay was part of it. So when that comes out, you'll be able to see, you know, cosplay as a proper documentary film.
Also, there is there's that PBS documentary, 4 Days of Dragon Con, that a lot of us were in. But the thing is, if they said, you know, some of the panel said, you know, I want to see everybody involved with cosplay. But if you're going to get involved for the right reasons. Do this because it's fun. Do this because you like the characters or you like the creative challenge. Because there are a lot of people out there right now who we know who are in this because they think it's going to make them famous. And they get big heads about it. I know. We dress as cartoon characters, literally. But there are people who think that this is going to make them famous, and that should never be what this is about. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get your work recognized. It's a wonderful thing. We all do it. We pose for pictures. Whenever anybody wants to interview us, we're happy to do it. But
good work does get recognized. That's the thing. Like, you can't control internet fame. It might come after like one costume or one photo that someone takes of you randomly. So if that's what you're doing it for, the extrinsic motivation of like other people, you'll be unhappy inside. So what they're trying to say is like, if you're happy with it, it doesn't matter if you're famous or not. And I think ultimately people do flock to good work. They know good work when they see it. They know when something has heart put into it, and you will get recognition in some way. No one knows how much. We don't know if 1 million people will see your YouTube video, or 10,000 or 100, but that shouldn't be what
I do want to say one other thing. Play your strengths as far as costuming goes. This is going to sound slightly politically incorrect, but pick something out that you can do well. This doesn't mean you have to look exactly like the character or even be the same color as the character, but when you look at yourself in the mirror, you should be able to say to yourself, I look good. I like the way I look. If you do not personally like the way you look, you might want to consider working out, doing something else, but make sure you like the way you look.
Does everyone know what a thinspiration is?
No.
It's when you want to cosplay as a character and they inspire you to get thin.
Or both.
I see that online.
Then again, some of us are just short and hippie, and so we pick short, hippie characters because
But it's not impossible to look like a character that you don't exactly look like. I just want to go right back to what he was saying. It was kind of interesting because Yaya started out talking about how to us it's very important that we make our own costumes. That if someone says, did you make your own costume? We're really proud to be like, yes, I spent the time on this. But that's, I think, really an anime American thing. I mean, you can obviously elaborate, but I know that like in Japan, right, it's completely acceptable to buy a costume from a factory, and you can be very well known from that. You could have lots of fans or whatever just from having really great photos and really looking the part and having a good like background and stuff in your photos. And there's no stigma attached to that. And I also think, but I hope that Liza don't get mad at me because they're the Dragon Con gurus and I'm not. But I've always thought it was interesting that at Dragon Con, which is a big sci-fi con that I'm sure maybe you come to because it's in Atlanta, if you could kind of dress as anything, like an original character, or you could dress in completely store-bought stuff, and if you look awesome, people will come up and talk to you and be interested in what you're wearing. But I noticed in anime conventions, if you dress as a more obscure character, you're not as likely for someone to come up and just be like, you look really cool, I'm interested in you. They're much more excited about, did you make the costume yourself, and do do I know your character? So that's kind of different in this environment versus like a sci-fi convention environment or more like a Renaissance fair kind of thing. Oh, there's candy.
It's called glitterati too. This makes me happy for some reason. Go ahead.
You want to ask a
Did
question?
anybody have any questions?
Yes, I have one. This is the Sociology of Cosplay. I've noticed this common thread that's just going through ever since subcultures really started to get studied. If you want to look at, say, the Birmingham Center for Cultural Studies back in the 70s when they were getting started in Dick Hedvig, writing about punk and all of that. And pretty much everything, almost every subculture that you look at, whether it be punk rockers, straight edge, or even people who are into tabletop, or even mountain bikers, or anyone who says, there's always this sort of obsession, obsession with authenticity within any kind of culture. So just to kind of give a point of comparison, let's just take cosplayers in general. I know, just as you said, there are splits between cosplay subcultures. Any sufficiently large subcultures can have splits. But if you wanted to generalize cosplay a little bit, you have a similarity with punk in that you're still centered upon this idea of authenticity, but if you wanted to, how is it that your notion of authenticity is going to differ from other subcultures' notions of authenticity?
Well, I think
Cosplay's notion of authenticity is craftsmanship, making your own costume. That's where the heart of it lies in, And that is changing slowly because there are commissioners in, all over the place, and you can buy things on eBay from China, and it becomes a lot easier to get costumes made for you. But this true core of cosplay is making your costumes.
Well, actually, there is one other measure of authenticity in that we have an objective standard. When you are costuming as a character, there's a picture of that character. You didn't create it, so people will compare you to that picture and say, do you match this? Do you have the parts? Did you do this properly? When I look at you, do I see this character? And that's
It's a recreation.
Yes.
It's a recreation of an existing character, your own interpretation, which a million different people can interpret the same characters a million different ways, which is where cosplay can just be, endlessly creative and fun.
Oh, I was just going to say, technology.
What I was going to say is, but that makes endless subgenres of authenticity. Because there are people who look like the character, but there are people who put more effort into their costume. There are people who who interpreted the character the way they would be in real life versus slavish devotion to screen accuracy. So there are endless permutations of what it means to be an authentic cosplayer. So there is no right answer.
Which sometimes leads to a lot of pointless bickering.
A lot of pointless bickering.
Yeah, especially video game characters. You have like your CG render in game, and then you have like the CG high resolution render for the older games that didn't make it in game. And you have the concept art, and then you've got the Amano art that doesn't look like it at all. And yeah.
My longtime joke is that cosplay is the art of making the physically impossible with the cheaply available.
So I was wondering what you guys thought about closet cosplays especially with the economy and everything, because I do a lot of closet cosplay, but I like to see it as an interpretation of my view on the character, and then I'll see what I have and I'll just modify it from scratch. So do you still think of it as authentic cosplay?
We're in a recession. Absolutely.
Well,
Can people tell who you are? Yes, you're great.
yes, that's exactly right. If it's obvious, if you did a good job in the costume, it was really accurate, closet's just fine. The problem is when people pull something out of the closet that's sort of maybe, but doesn't really look like it, then people, then it's like, well, you just didn't put any effort.
Yeah, something doesn't have to cost a lot of money to look really good. Like I make a lot of costumes from scratch. It costs maybe under $100 is usually most of my costumes. Under 50, many of them.
We must have so many resources around your house, I assume at this point, right?
I do keep a giant fabric box of extra scraps, and I've made costumes from just scrap material in my fabrics box, so for virtually nothing.
It occurred to me like maybe 2 years ago that you can you have like a really accurate cosplays you see, and then you have like maybe some closet cosplay where they're like, well, I like this character, and I think people recognize me if I have these 3 elements. And I started thinking of it like abstract art. Like it's kind of like its own thing. Like maybe the girl character has 18 belts, but if I have 3 belts in the same area, people still know what I am. And I think there might be something kind of cool about that too. So I bring up the other point, which is like if you're having fun, I mean, I don't really see a problem with it. Like if you're just like, I think Lulu's badass, so I'm gonna wear a few belts around my skirt so I kind of look like her because I like her, and I don't see a problem with that. I think the only problem is like we're all used to like being in competitions, and so like when you're entering a competition, that's when the accuracy really comes into play because you just want to be as perfect as you possibly can be for yourself mainly. Like you just want to see how close you can get it to make you satisfied. So if you're just wandering around with your friends, there shouldn't be any problem.
But there is one other thing though. I think one of the problems with that comes when you want to get pictures with other people that maybe dress as the same thing that you are, and they went all out and were really super accurate, and then they want to take pictures with other people who are super accurate. They don't necessarily want to take pictures with someone who sort of kind of did it. And I'm not judging anybody, but that is going to happen. So if you're not going to invest necessarily the same level of work, that can happen to you.
Well, on that note, the one thing I try to add into this panel all the time is there are different levels of cosplaying, okay? And that is why we as cosplayers should never judge other cosplayers, because you don't know how much time they had to make the outfit, what budget they had, how involved they were even in the progress. Like, did they decide to do this while they were half drunk one night, 2 days before a con? Like, I just want to dress as this character.
My project start.
We're all just I've been there too. Like, you love.
Personal experience.
Yeah. Like, sometimes you just want to dress up for fun and it doesn't have to be perfect. But then other times when, it's like, this is my favorite character. I've waited 10 years and I've saved up like $1,000 of my materials. This is gonna be perfect. And then you go all out and, so your results are completely different. But you should never go out and judge someone, online or in person. You should never be like, oh man, this person looks like crap. Because you don't know like how important this was to them. This might have just been a fluke.
Bringing others down does nothing for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
But bear in mind that's absolutely correct. But expect that there are people who will. That's part of being in this hobby. That's why I said like what you see in the mirror, because let me tell you, no matter how good you are, no matter how hard you work, there are people out there who are going to just try to bring you down. And everyone here has stories about that, I promise you.
Alright. Well, you know what? Haters gonna hate. I just don't go to 4chan because I'm like, well, I don't go to 4chan negative. Right? Like, I'm like, if people are gonna say bad things, I don't really need to go there. But I'm really, like Mika said, the bottom line is that you're there to have fun.
In the end, we're all nerds dressing up, and the people online are nerds, are going to criticize. They can come up to you and say something, then how cool does that make them? Like, you're dressing up as a comic book character? Or
Internet bravery.
Calm down.
Oh, I just kind of wanted to add a couple cents to that. Basically, thrift stores are your friend.
Yes!
Leather pants, like, not even $5. Seriously. And there's a lot of characters that have a simple enough design to them that all you have to do is modify something from your closet. Like Morty from Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver. I did the Morty with the Ghastly a year or two ago. I don't know if anyone saw that, but everything from that came from the thrift store except the fleece I used to make the scarf and the purple bits.
I did Tom's today for $40, and 30 of that was the wig.
I was panty today from
making my stockings costume, and I'm like, I'm buying all the things for mine, and I'm modifying them. And I made sure to put care into like, I had like a decal on the back of my outfit, and I made sure to make that look really nice. But I'm like, there's no shame in when you're not entering a contest to just buy some stuff and make sure it looks nice. I mean,
It's still work.
Yeah, it's still work. I still definitely.
Searching the right shoes and the right wig and the right button. Even if you're not making those little pieces, it sometimes takes hours and hours to find exactly the thing that looks exactly right. Weeks, months,
years.
Yeah.
There is one thing to think of with some characters. There's going to be that one overriding element. The one thing that if you really nail it, you got that character. Can you stand back up, please? Look at that arm.
The arm!
That arm. That is really nice. And the fact that he nailed that arm means that you have that full element off his character, Edward, I think, just down, and everyone's going to love it. And that's the kind of thing, when you look at the character, what about that character really defines them? You make sure you spend, the greatest part of your time on that, because that's what everyone's going to immediately look at.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of my favorite examples of closet cosplay is like if you have you already made an Edward Elric costume and you're like, well, I don't want to wear the whole thing, so I'll just wear the armor and the wig and a Hawaiian shirt and some shorts. I mean, Edward Elric on vacation.
Before in line on Thursday night. One hat and little badges and a Pokeball.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things too, where it's a lot of fun, and that's what this is about. You're supposed to have fun, it can be serious business, but at the base of it, you need to be having fun, or it's not worth it.
Any other questions? Any other topics you guys would like us to talk about? This is your place to bitch. I mean,
It's been a lot tamer than usual. No one's asking us about boyfriends or being naked or what's going on here. You guys are way too civilized.
All right, my question is, as many times I come to anime conventions, I was thinking about cosplay, but every time I mention it, it was always a video game character. And most people say, well, why are you going as a video game character at an anime convention?
do what you want.
Yeah, people keep saying that a lot.
We got Superman up here.
Where is that sound coming from?
Anyway, who's going? Are you going, Monica?
I'm going, sorry.
Go for it.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't watch anime, and I don't really like it, okay? I started there, I remember in 6th grade, watching all those Bleach episodes and Naruto. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like really watching that stuff anymore, I like sci-fi and all that, but I still like the cosplay from anime stuff, simply for design, but I say, cosplay whatever you want at a convention. Like, someone's gonna recognize you and say, hey, that's really cool, I love that, Even if it's from some sci-fi show or a comic book character at an anime convention. Like, they say anime convention, but it's like, wear whatever the hell you want convention.
Love you. Your relatives love you here.
I have a question then, maybe that, is this or in the middle will answer. I thought originally Dragon Con was before there was an AWA, that Dragon Con, the Everything Con, that's where anime people had to go to get their anime, right? In the 80s and such. I don't know, clearly, but the reason that confuses me about that anime versus video game is I think only recently has there been video game only conventions. When I started going here, it was the anime and video game convention because
It should be. If anything, anime and video game go together, and then comic book and sci-fi go together.
and also a lot of people a lot of games come out of Japan, and the anime convention is sort of a Japanese culture convention. Where are you going to get your, where are you going to dress as your J-pop characters, or just go to a maid cafe, or just learn about Japan in general.
By the way,
Tomorrow, 4 to 6, or on main cafe takeover.
I'm going to get you for saying the 80s are the old days, just so you know.
Some of us were born in the 80s.
One of the things I found really interesting was this past year I went to Otakon, and I enter a lot of costume contests, and I had made a little sister costume, and so I sent
that was
Sorry. And so I sent an email to the costume director, head person, And I was like, can I enter this costume? And they're like, oh, sorry, we can't because it's an American video game, not Japanese. So I don't understand how that kind of works anymore. It's like you can't enter American video games? What does that even mean?
Well, also, like, in Florida, where a few of us are from, we have MegaCon, which is like an everything convention, and nobody organizes a non-Japanese media costume contest. So just because someone's not in charge of it, there's only one costume contest, and you can only be in it if you're like an anime or Japanese video game. But it's just from Japanese origin. From a Japanese origin, but it's strange because it's an everything convention. So you see all sorts of really awesome stuff that's just not being,
Wasn't the costume contest like always organized by anime? It's done by anime.
Yeah, which I mean that's good. They're the anime club; they should organize it. But it's like, where's the comic book people organizing the costume contest? Isn't that strange? Like, it's sort of just detrimental to the event. I think that no one's like, let's organize it for the other fans here. I think so.
My turn? Yay! So,
I'm not lifting.
hello?
I think so.
Okay.
So I'm back up.
Sociology major.
Yay!
Yeah.
So tell me what's wrong with this picture. How come there are no black anime characters? They're all white!
I was like, man, I really want to be Rogue from X-Men. She goes, oh my god, I should be Storm.
Why not? I can paint myself a little bit darker. My skin isn't dark enough to be Storm, so just like any other character that I decide to cosplay, if I really want to cosplay that character and get it right, I will darken my skin. Just like I have known of an African American girl who did Carmilla from Vampire Hunter D, and she painted herself white. To be a vampire. So I don't think it has anything, like, race should never play a part in cosplay. Just like gender should never play a part in cosplay.
You can't change it. You can't change it. It's part of who you are.
But if you really want to try to change it to be more accurate to the character, it would be just like wearing heels because you're not tall enough to be a character, or wearing makeup because your eyes aren't big enough to really be that character.
Cosplayers wear blonde wigs and blue eyes.
Yeah, contacts, wigs, we already do these things.
I actually have a short story about that. Just this past Dragon Con, I was in the parade. I was Superboy with Brian Wynn, who was Superman. And he was talking to me about that, and we were talking, I was like, I told him that he was one of the best Supermans around there. He had the height, he had a really good build for it and all that. He was saying to me, he was like, well, thanks, man. A lot of people give me grief for some reason because I'm an Asian Superman, and I was like, I can't understand why.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what your race is. And in this community, thankfully, and one of the things I love about it is most people don't give a damn. We just don't. You're never going to get 100% of everybody to love you. Give up on that idea right now, no matter what the circumstance. But I love that most people in this community just don't care. You can wear whatever you want. Don't worry about your race. But like I said earlier, look in the mirror and like what you see. As long as you got that, you're good to go.
Actually, a huge percentage of cosplay is about heart.
Yeah. Yes, it really is.
I have a friend, actually the older friend, and her name is Tease, and her nickname is Bliku for Black Riku. And she does amazing costumes. I don't care what the race, just all of them are just so well executed. And no one has to comment about her race just because her costume's amazing. Like, do what you want. And amazing.
I have a black Chun lady, and she's amazing, and
I think it's just like there's no right answer to this because it is a little confusing. Like you know, if Yaya darkens her skin, are people going to be offended? Like, I think that's an open question, right? I don't think they should be, but it could happen, right? I just want to say it's totally confusing. Like, Monica and I are both half Asian, and this was like, when I was a younger cosplayer, this was really confusing to me because you would read there was this stigma that like only Japanese girls or Asian girls were good cosplayers. Like, you'd read like just trolly neckbeard internet males being like, well, I don't like this cosplayer because only Japanese girls are hot. And you're like, oh. And then I noticed there was sort of like a backlash where girls would, American girls would get like a little worried, and I read a lot where they're like, well, only white girls can be anime characters because they were meant to be white because they have big eyes. And I'm just thinking like, what? No, I've heard that many times. And it's like confusing. It's just like, well, what are we supposed to do? We're half Asian. Are we like,
Between the boundaries.
I mean, like they both hate them still on both sides. Oh no!
You will be shunned.
Yeah. This is actually uncosplay related, but to my Asian friends, I'm white girl, and to my white friends, I'm Asian. I'm not the one thing.
One time I was an Eskimo, and then
Construct. Oh my god.
But yeah, so I think like from that though, I just sort of, that is part of the whole like, well, just try not to care. I mean, that's completely, that's just racist. There's nothing else to say about that, right? And it's hard to read when you see like someone's like a beautiful, amazing cosplayer, and then someone's like, well, I think this girl looks more like that Asian character, and it's a white girl, and you're like, I don't know. But like, I mean, I don't think that should matter, and I think that's just something you kind of have to overlook. One of the awesome things about Atlanta is that there's so many African American people here who cosplay, and I think that's awesome that we have like such a diverse like racial background here. It's like, yeah.
If you guys want to see a really good African American cosplayer, look at Fevron. She does an African American cross-dressed Altair. And Ezio. She's done every Assassin's Creed. It's amazing. She has a cosplay gallery in the next room over.
I do want to say there is one right answer, and it comes back to like what you see. None of us anywhere are ever going to please anybody. Don't even try. Please yourself. Yes, I can think of be that as it may, yes, but be happy with what you're doing. Look in the mirror, be happy with yourself. That is literally all that matters. If you choose to change your skin tone or you choose not to, it doesn't matter. Do what you like.
Caroline. The fact that I make other people smile is just icing on the cake. I like to make myself smile.
Just a whole note on the whole racism thing.
Caroline, I know you're their girlfriend.
Caroline, she's been around for a while.
Yeah. So I do Avatar cosplay, and I do a lot of vendors who are very darker skin. And one thing I'm always worried about with them is like, where's the line between darkening your skin for cosplay and doing blackface? Like, I'm really worried that I'm gonna really offend somebody with the fact that I'm dark.
I can definitely answer this one. It's a matter of, are you trying to be accurate to the character? Blackface was a parody of black people. It was meant to be insulting to begin with. If you're just trying to be as accurate to a character as possible, you're not doing blackface. Blackface had a certain look to it that was meant to be offensive. Yes. If you're trying to be accurate, you're fine. If you're trying to, you know what? Like I said, you're always going to offensive. As long as you're trying to be accurate, you're fine.
Every time I do a superhero character, I get the comment, oh, Asian Black Cat, or Asian Catwoman, or Asian, oh my god, yes, I did the USO chorus girl from Captain America, and I got so many racist comments on DeviantArt. I was like, why is there an Asian chorus girl?
Because, God forbid,
she's wearing red, white, and blue. Why is she Asian?
I'm sorry, I was born here.
Like, seriously.
American is not a color, okay?
Where you born? Seriously.
I can't help but think of like this one, it was a Harry Potter book premiere where Nico and I are going out to the book premiere, and we were like, well, it's the night before, what are we wearing? Because we don't really know. And I was like, well, I'm going to be Harry, like, why don't you be Hermione? She's like, oh, thank God you didn't tell me to be Cho Chang. Like,
You have been waiting at the bus station.
Yeah, you I'm sorry, you can go right after me. Like, for example, we did Glee, and like, I was like, okay, I'll be Tina, because I'm Asian. But you know, you kind of have, you want to imagine as close as you can, kind of for like TV show stuff. But like what she's saying is like, you know, you don't have to always be the Asian if you don't want to be. I mean, like there's definitely characters that were not Asian. I was like, no, I do it, then you just deal with it, you know.
I have one question for my other parents. Can I be Cho Chang then?
Oh yeah, you can be beefy Cho Chang. You can be part of the musical Cho Chang.
Nice.
She has a question.
Sorry.
Go for it.
So how does cosplay affect your personal lives? Because I kind of dabbled with it.
Personal life.
Okay, for
What is this personal life you speak of?
I don't know, boyfriends, girlfriends.
Yeah, we're going down the road. Okay.
So I recently started at Georgia Tech, and I live in Atlanta, but my house is in Alpharetta, and so I have like a little workshop there, my sewing machine, my serger, and so I can't necessarily bring that with me to my dorm rooms. I don't have any room there. So for the past like 2 months, I've been hauling ass back home on the weekend, slaving out a costume for 2 days, going back to school. Then running back the next weekend, working on a costume. Like the past 2 costumes I made were made in 2 days, day and night, because I had to manage cosplay that one weekend I had between school. Because I can't study at Georgia Tech and do costume at the same time. So for me, it's all about time management. It was like that for me in high school because I had marching band and school. So, you know,
Go marching band!
after band practice, I ran home and I sewed. So it's all about prioritizing kind of what you do and realizing that, you know, I mean, for me, life comes first, you know, school. Because cosplay, after all, is just a hobby. You know, don't make that your life thing. I mean, sometimes some people, it's like it's their living, like Yaya, as their business, and cosplay is her living, I guess.
It's not all she does. Come on.
But, yeah, really?
Okay, so I guess personal life, I'll take that to mean, well, I kind of have a similar story to her. I'm a PhD student right now, but when I was an undergrad in computer science, my advisor was like, oh, you slave on this, right? Like, you're going to grad school, you have to work really hard. And I was like, yeah, well, I started doing this hobby and things. And he's like, oh, we have a hobby? Like, well, how often do you do the hobby? And I was like, well, I guess I do about like an hour of it a night. And he goes, oh my goodness. You'll never get into grad school. Like, you can't do it an hour a night. An hour a night, you'll never make it. And, you know, well, screw him, because I have a master's now. But when I got into grad school, my new advisor was like, hey, that's cool. And that was it. He never asked about it ever again, you know, because to him, he's like, oh, you're doing all your work? Okay. Like, it wasn't, you know, personal, but like, yeah, full story. But, you know, so there was definitely, I was really worried for many years about like, oh my God, I'm supposed to have a professional career and be a professor someday. And sure enough, when I was a teaching assistant, some punk came in and was like, is this you? And holds up his iPhone next to me in a Visa costume. And I was like, yes, that's me. We're in class right now. We're not going to talk about it. But then, like, you know, by now I realize that I'm sort of going into like video game research, is what I do now, and I might be doing that as my career. And over there, they don't care at all. This is totally cool with them. They love people that have eccentric hobbies and stuff. So that was a big breather for me. It was like, hey, I can be myself. Like, this is actually good for me. My internship at Microsoft this summer, the last question they asked me was entirely about cosplay, because it was at the bottom in my extracurricular activities. And she just wanted to know how I talk when I talked about something I really cared about, and how I organized these big groups of people and done these huge events and things. And that was how she was able to tell I was good for the job. So that was like a big eye-opener for me, that like even in the professional world, people, like, they're going to see how there's positives out of anything. They're not going to judge you based on face value. So I think that was really important for me anyway.
Okay, I guess I'm going to put a really positive spin on this because, of course, cosplay is very stressful and can be a strain on your life. But through cosplay and conventions is where I met my current boyfriend, and we just celebrated our 2-year anniversary. We're extremely happy together and really close.
Break his heart.
So, you know, and he cosplays, and, you know, I knew him, like, way before, we were dating, and, you know, that's how we met, that's how we got together, and it's great because, you know, like, before AWA, we're like, all right, well, I guess we're staying up till 4:30 in the morning, we're both sewing and drinking and listening to music together, and it's really great to have somebody that shares that with you. Like, it's really awesome to have somebody that has the same interests, and it's obviously a great way to meet somebody.
I guess for me, it's a little different. Cosplay is not just a hobby for me. It used to be, but now it's a lifestyle. It is my life. It's my work. It's my career. It's everything that I do. I live and breathe it. I have my own business. I make appearances at conventions about 20 to 25 times a year worldwide. And I dress up every weekend, sometimes on the weekdays as well, for various projects where I'm required to be in costume. And so it's just, you know, I feel very fortunate, and I feel very grateful that cosplay has given me such a solid direction in life. Like, I know what I want to do for the next 50 years. You know, I'm ready, I'm done. But at the same time, it can be interesting juggling, you know, the fun of it versus the deadlines, the things that you have to get done, the stress, overloading yourself, as I always do. But overall, you know, I couldn't ask for anything else. It's so much better than working for someone else, honestly, having your own business.
Well, first, as far as personal life, as far as my girlfriend goes, she can tell you about it when we get to her turn. But,
oh, okay. This is gonna get naughty.
That was just, that was just an attempt at a clever way to say that my girlfriend is sitting here next to me, so it's worked out. Unfortunately, it wasn't that clever, it seems. But that's always been one of my pitfalls. I'm actually blind. Cosplay is a lot of fun. As far as my personal life, it's really given me a lot. I've landed several different gigs, various jobs through cosplay, through my costuming. Like, oh yeah, sure, I can be this particular mascot for 3 hours and make $100 because I've got plenty of experience costuming. Sure, I can work at Netherworld. I've got plenty of experience costuming and acting and doing all this kind of thing. And it's been great. I've met a lot of wonderful friends through this as well. I mean, it is just a hobby. Obviously, it would take a back seat to my relationship to a career, to anything else, but at the same time, it's given me an awful lot, and it's a lot of fun. If you want to get into it, and if you want to have fun, I highly encourage it. You'll meet a lot of people you have a lot of common interests with. You'll have friends all over the country and all over the world. It's just wonderful.
Cosplay is mainly just my hobby, but most of my close personal friends that I have today, I have met through cosplay. So that's been, something that's really great. And I do have a lot of gigs and stuff and work and such that I've gotten through recognition online. People have hired me online because they see me and they say, can you come do this modeling gig? So that's been really good. And I'll keep this short. So yes, my life has changed since I started being a cosplayer, but much for the better. And I really enjoy it. It's my artistic outlet.
I'm actually the professional proverbial starving artist. I have the day job, the soul-sucking day job, but I love it actually. That just doesn't pay very much. But I've actually gotten freelance jobs through cosplay. I have met some of my bestest friends ever through cosplay. It's really, you really need to love what you do in your personal life, because I think the world today forces you to make a lot of choices about making money that don't necessarily do good things for your soul. So you need to do things that are for you and you alone. And cosplay is one of those beautiful, beautiful things that I don't care if your coworkers say, "Oh my God, what is that? Is that some kind of sexual thing?" And you're like, "Oh my God, what is wrong with you?" Okay, maybe, but no.
That's been one of my peeves is that people think that cosplay is a fetish.
Seriously, that was like, what, 30 years ago? Maybe. Yeah.
For some people, it might be.
So, you might have to educate someone every once in a while. Someone at your job might give you a load of crap, but you know what? They are small, terrible people. Or maybe just sad people, maybe not terrible people. But really, if it makes you happy, who cares?
I think it's a sad thing when people say costuming is cool when chicks do it.
Sexist. Sexist for everybody.
I do want to
Or
say one
feminism.
thing. There can be every once in a while there is a negative to where somebody will act like an ass to you because of this. Obviously they're not worth knowing, but at the same time, it escapes me why anybody would have to give us grief to begin with for something that doesn't harm them in any way, shape, or form.
It's because they're pitiful and they want to feel better because they're better than somebody else, and that's just not the way the world works.
I wanted to ask before we continue what some of you guys get out of cosplay. If you guys don't mind coming up to the mic and sort of telling us, what is your most enjoyable experience? Like, why do you do it?
We have a volunteer.
Okay, so I went to JagCon for the first time this year. It was amazing. And my friends were like, "Well, you have to wear a costume this year. That's just the thing." And I'm like, "That's okay. We'll find something." So they were Disney princesses. So the first thing they said was, "You have to be Pocahontas or Jasmine." So I picked Jasmine.
We already covered that.
Exactly.
I did Mulan.
My favorite part about cosplaying, and I'm going to wear her again, so look for Jasmine tomorrow. But
I want to.
Every little girl, or even the little boys, that came up to me, they're like, "Oh, Princess Jasmine."
Real princess.
That's exactly. And they would just smile, and so when you see someone else smile from something you made from scratch, it's just, "Oh, okay, I'll be your princess."
Yes, the kids are definitely a huge reason to costume, especially in the daytime when you do a Disney character and they run up to you and you're their hero.
Well, for my first experience for DragonCon, that was the coolest thing ever. So
of course, they made me be Cinderella, so she.
The little kids are definitely a huge thing.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, thank you. Anyone else? Share? Anyone else? Sharing. And then we will get to people who are waiting very patiently to ask questions.
Well, one of the things I love about this costume here is I can act like a, drunken ass. People will say, "Oh, he's just in character."
I think several of us are guilty of cosplays like that.
Bye, Gardner.
But no, I like kind of doing more I guess this really isn't too obscure as far as mainstream stuff, but just kind of doing stuff that's outside of, anime, comics, or cartoons. This is more like a film and literature thing, and it's a lot of fun. That's not to say I don't do that other stuff. My other go-to is Travis Touchdown, but I really like doing it.
Travis Touchdown.
Who here has done book cosplays on this channel?
Well, when you're not normally a dick, it's great to have the opportunity to act like one. I'm going to be pizzazz tomorrow from Jennifer Holograms. I'm going to be like, "How can I
What's book cosplay?
She doesn't give a shit.
Amanda's also been Sue Sylvester to Glee. And I believe her friend bought her ticket to the Glee 3D movie just so she would go in her costume.
I just yelled at the people behind us "Wow, those seats are probably where all the losers sit because this is where the best seats are." And there's not anybody there, so it's fun.
Woohoo!
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I think he has a question.
Unrelated question. Go for it. Why do you cosplay? What do you get out of it?
Me? Well, first of all, I want to apologize if any of I started this already, if I actually brought it up in past conversations. So if any of you familiar faces are here, I'm going to say it again.
I am a graduate with a diploma in early childhood education, and I am all for, and I am a children's advocate in the respects of pushing forth artful, encouragement. I one day want to see more games and modern day technology and just more things like cosplay and acting and role playing instituted into the classroom. So now that we've gotten to a point where smaller children were involved, it's become more broad for them. I think it's very encouraging, and all you really have to say to them is, hey, Halloween is like being able to dress up and be able to play around and monkey around as much as you want, and you can do this as an adult. When was the last time we were able to say something like that? So for me,
learning by playing.
Exactly.
It's how we start, it's how we should continue.
And it's how well, it's never going to end, but keep the party going. So that's really my perspective on it, and I don't know exactly where I'm going to go with it, but that's the general area I'm going to go into. That's really my perspective on it, and I don't know exactly where I'm going to go with it, but that's the general area I'm going to go into. And cosplay really does come into a large part of it. And actually, throughout this panel, I want to say thank you, because y'all have really touched on some things that I really do agree with, and it's really insightful and encouraging to see others that understand what I'm feeling and thinking, basically. That's pretty much it. It's for the kids, it's passing on, because, one day we're going to be those ones calling them the whippersnappers, but they're the ones that's going to be passing on what we're teaching them now. And if we teach them to remember to have fun and look for yourself first and appreciate what you see, that's only a bigger step towards self-esteem that the children of today's generation and the past generation have really needed. Thank you.
Your shirt is awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, it's QR.
Say no to sparkles? Is that what that says?
Check the back page of your con ad. It's going to be a book this spring.
And you QR'd it.
My
Can I buy
husband
one?
actually.
No, you made the QR.
Oh yeah, QR code. You can scan it. It works. I wanted to say my favorite part about cosplaying. I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go there and to have a roommate who was a costume designer. So Halloween was the best holiday. It quickly overshadowed Christmas because we went to like 3 parties a year in different costumes: Villains Party, Harley Quinn, and Joker. Crazy fun. And so when I graduated, I moved to Massachusetts for a little bit, and now I'm in Alabama. I'm 3 hours away from my best friend, my maid of honor. And what we can do is use this as our excuse to cooperate and work long distance to coordinate our costumes. We have a top secret Facebook group, and it kept us talking on a weekly basis, where I'm horrible at staying in touch with people no matter how much I love them. And this is my excuse.
You have to talk to your best friend.
She's right behind me.
Yes.
Okay. Hi. This is my excuse to be always in touch with her, and then to get to come with my husband and my friend Ryan, who, we're a really tight bunch from college, and get together and hang out all weekend and catch up. And so I feel like I probably would not be as good at staying in touch, and this is helping me do that, and it's giving us something to share together.
She's gonna make me cry. So yeah, that's been a huge part. It's helped me really keep in touch with my friends, and one thing that's really wonderful for costume design is having consistent clients whose sizes you know. But for me, cosplay has been huge. I remember I got into it when I was about 14, and frankly, from that point on, because I was already interested in theater, I'm like, my passion, I'm going to be a costume designer for theaters, and that's what I want to do. And the first theater that ever actually hired me to design a show, part of what got me that job was because I was trying to find, okay, what costumes can I do? And it's Dad's Garage in Atlanta, so they do a lot of slasher. Dad's Garage! They do a lot of slasher stuff, and because I worked at GameStop, I'm like, well, I'm going to do costumes. I'm going to do costumes for midnight releases, and part of what got me the job is for BioShock 2, I dressed up as a splicer, did everyone's effects makeup. Oh, yeah. And they were like, this is what you do? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, we need someone to make bloody Shakespeare junk. I'm like, I'm all over that. I love Shakespeare, I love blood, and, not like in a vampire way, but just
take me seriously professionally in costume design because they look and they're like, not only is she doing this for theaters, she does it for fun, she does it because she wants to show people what she can do, and it's even gotten me gigs promoting children's books for other theaters, where they're saying, oh, we're doing a kid's version of How I Became a Pirate. Can you make a pirate costume and go do a dramatic reading? And recently I did a reading of True Story for Three Little Pigs in a wolf costume. So, I mean, it's strange, but being able to personally cosplay has given me more work opportunities, more theater connections, and it's one of the few hobbies where you think it's going to alienate you. And yet, all it's really done is it's actually been something that's made me have the work I have, made me feel kind of successful and freelance, which is really, really hard. So, anyway, and of course, keeping in touch with my super awesome best friends from college. So, yay!
I actually started off as like a Photoshop enthusiast a long time ago. So like I found myself often like looking through DeviantArt for eye candy and stuff, and I don't know how long I missed cosplay until like 2 years ago when I met this road Foles. Yeah, but when I started attending college, like they showed up in cosplay, and like I was just kind of like, ooh, anime club. Wait, why are all these people like wearing costumes? Let me go talk to them. So I did that, and then like they introduced like cosplay to me, and then I just started diving more into it and researching it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this makes me so happy to look at this. I want to do this. So I know for me, cosplay is kind of a big energy drink to me in a way, because I like the challenge of it. As an artistic person, I aspire to do more, because I know for me, excuse me, I'm going to like slide an Asian stigmatism in here, but yeah, we're pushed to do academically challenging things, and to be honest, in high school, I probably slept more than I did Friday. I probably doodled more than I slept, so it was really hard for me to accept the fact that, hey, you know what, you're going to stick to the Asian road and be a computer scientist, an engineer, a lawyer, etc. And when I pretty much made a decision to change my major to graphic design, oh Jesus, I got so much shit from my brother and my mother, and they were on me for a month, so.
Hey, you can do whatever you want, you're an American.
It's Superman said.
For being an artist from your parents.
Yeah, but it just makes me really happy to be able to do this and knowing that when I wake up in the morning, you know, this is what makes me happy, and I've met some awesome people through it.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm from that group in the back where they have those sort of wonderful little heartfelt words there, and I agree that the people that cosplay together stay together, I guess is the phrase. But they've been dragging me out here. This is my third year here. I don't actually normally do this kind of stuff. I come here, and I'm one of those people that walks around and 7/8 of what I see goes right over my head, and I'm like, yo, fabulous, wonderful. I don't know what you're talking about sometimes, but that doesn't matter, because one of the things that I really like coming out here to these things is it's really refreshing to see people who are so passionate, so positive, and have such a drive to actually do things and get things accomplished. So that's just really refreshing. Once a year, I not only get to hang out with some of my really good friends, but I also get to see a group of people who are really dedicated to what they love doing.
I just really enjoy wearing tutus, and it's fun. And this is the one time of year where I can wear a tutu out and people don't look at me too weirdly, because I wear this year round. So.
I've got bad knees, so I'm going to sit down. I'm not a cosplayer. I'm here because my daughter is. And I just wanted to reflect on a few things I've seen since I've seen her do this. And just being here, this is my first time at any kind of fun convention. The only kind of conventions I've ever been to are business. And this was my first attempt at my cosplay. I am cosplay Pinkie Pie's mom. This is it. I worked very hard on this before we left. can see I put a lot of effort in. The stickers are actually, I put those on. But I'm going to tell you, my daughter, I introduced her to a very artistic life from early on. She had the opportunity to attend a creative arts elementary school and middle school and high school. So for the person who was talking about putting the arts in the schools, in our community, we were very fortunate that we had that available. So my daughter's always had the opportunity to enjoy the arts of it, and she's a very creative, smart girl. But what I've enjoyed watching with her is that she's the leader in their group, and she's never been the most organized person in the world, but she's the one who organizes everyone, and I see her skills as an adult coming through. I mean, she's 22 right now, and she's worked really hard at learning how to put costumes together on a really low budget. She and her husband don't have a whole lot of money, but this weekend I've seen her already in 3 costumes just today. And I have no idea how many costumes she'll be in tomorrow or Sunday. But what I've seen with her is she's been able to express her artistic ideas. She's been a guy this weekend. She's been a pony this weekend. She'll be a girl sometime this weekend. I saw them right before dinner, and I said to her, I said, "Who are you now?" She says, "I'm just Lindsay." I had no idea. I thought she was in another costume. But we used to dress up at home. We used to enjoy dress up. We always enjoyed Halloween. And I'm just real proud to have seen how she's blossomed with this. Her friends are involved in this. And it's just a culture that she truly, truly gets a lot out of and has a good time with.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So I just wanted to let you know from an outside point of view, and watching the growth of my daughter and how much she enjoys this and how much she gets out of it. And so parents can appreciate this too.
Yeah. There aren't enough parents who encourage their children as much as you do, because I see from a lot of cosplayers have approached me. They're like, my parents don't understand what I'm doing. How can I convince them?
Can we just give her a round of applause?
Yeah. Your kids could be out there doing a lot worse things than sewing and crafting with foam and cardboard and various.
This has inspired her. She's going to actually learn how to sew now. So
that's great.
That's a good
really
inspiration
great.
for
Yeah.
her.
But I definitely, if any of you if your parents ever wonder what is this crazy stuff you're into, just be like, it could be a lot worse. Okay, I could be out there doing drugs or something. So. Yes, you too, Alan. You've been so patient. Thank you so much. Please pose your questions.
Well, first I'll just answer the question that you asked us. Sometimes the sight of someone in a really good cosplay makes me fangirl squeal, and now I cosplay on my own to try to make other fangirls squeal. So anyway, for my question, if I'm making a cosplay or wearing a costume and end up injuring myself, I call that a badge of honor. What cosplay badges of honor have you gotten over the years?
That's a long one, isn't it?
Let's hear your question.
What's your most interesting?
Let's hear your question so we have both of them.
Actually, I have 2 questions. Let's go ahead.
Oh my God.
I can stand.
You sure?
I can stand.
All right.
Start at the beginning.
I haven't had any really crazy incidents with costumes. I mean, I know. I've put on a couple of times. I'd say the worst injury was while I was working for Yaya. We were working on some cat ears, and I put some glue in there, and I wasn't paying attention, and I stuck my finger in there, and I had this crazy 2nd-degree burn. It was the worst pain of my life.
That was your worst injury? Seriously?
I took care of myself.
Jeez. It took me a few minutes or a few seconds to remember this, but our first year cosplaying, I had this box cutter knife, and I'm cutting some foam. What is it called? The one you put in the house. The
Insulation?
Foam, yeah. And Alvin keeps going, I'm not sure you should be holding it like that. And I'm like, whatever. And then it just slides and goes right into my thigh. And then I'm like running into the room, throwing my pants up, and my boyfriend's like, what's happening? Oh my God, cool it. But it wasn't that deep. It's just like it was sharp, right? So it just went in and came out, and it was a little scary. But I think that's the worst one. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to think now, and I'm like, I mean, I get little injuries all the time with cosplay, like raw fingers and, little stab wounds and stuff, but I can't think of any, horrible thing. I mean, I do have a badge of honor in that, I'm infamously known as the face, because I make extremely good faces, and that's, I don't really know. I'm like...
How is this related to the movie? No idea.
Her biggest injury is to her.
I don't know. It's that's my badge of honor, I guess, is the face, and I don't know, I don't really have any scars otherwise, I just have my face to prove my scars. Very lucky.
So your biggest injury is your right.
Yeah.
Well, there was the one time where I was sewing half drunk. There was one time where the needle went through my nail and almost went into my finger. And that's, the sewing machine. And that's when alright, no more sewing drinking. No more drinking also. But yeah, I think the worst was, it was hot glue, but I was doing a odango for shampoo, so it was like, the foam ball with the hair has to cover it, so I used hot glue to cover strands, and I guess the way I was holding it, I didn't realize, and this big gunk of hot glue just dripped right onto my thigh, right here in the front, where it's all tender. And, the skin fell right off, and it was like this nasty scar that you could see for about a year. Literally, it didn't go away for a year. I was like, seriously? Are you serious? It's been 9 months, it's still here. I still have to cover it up every time I wear something, like a mini skirt. But that was probably the worst.
Real quick, two small things, I guess. The worst personal injury was when I was working on a Captain Marvel mask, and I was working with a little bit of hot glue for the eyes, and the hot glue was high temperature, dripped on my leg, and my immediate reaction was to wipe it off, except I realized I was holding a mask in my hand, so I didn't. I controlled myself to where I didn't wipe it off, and that hurt like hell when I finally peeled it off. But the very worst injury was not to me, but to my Silver Surfer surfboard that we made out of very expensive, high-density housing insulation. This took place at MegaCon the year before last. We were doing a big group costuming thing, and I set my board down off to the side, a place I thought was safe on a bench. Dwight, who was wearing a black denim Martian Manhunter and had this big mask on, did not see it. Moved back, started to sit down on what he thought was the bench, was actually the end of my board hanging off, and splintered my board.
Oh, no.
Pieces. And in fact, I ended up at Yaya's house to get Brian's help to repair the damage. That was definitely my worst cosplay injury. It was the look on my face. Everybody was like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry." Everybody felt it was far worse than anything you could have done to me personally. But it's all fixed and it had a happy ending.
I have also had a sewing machine impale on my fingers. And it's not a fun experience. I mean, I've had, piercings that I've done, on my own voluntary impulse. Yeah, but it's kind of a surprise when it happens, while you're sewing. And hot glue, I've got scars, hot glue, watch out. High temperatures, really, really dangerous. We all think, oh, it's not going to happen to me while we're working with it, but yeah.
Mine is very unique. I decided one time I am tired of playing the cute little Lily Shota. I'm going to be Al Knox from Star Ocean 3. I am the shortest person in my group. And so I get these really big heels from the thrift store that I can make into these giant boots of his. They're fantastic. I'm walking around them all day. I start going, gee, my feet kind of hurt. Oh well, I'll suck it up. I walk around some more. God, my feet really hurt. Guys, can I sit down? Okay, I'm gonna sit down for a little while. So the next day, we've done the contest, we've done everything. I get up. I wake up, I'm laying in bed. You know how it is Sunday morning with con. You're laying there. And I go, wiggle, wiggle. Nico, poke my toe. Why? I can't feel two of them. I had damaged the nerves in my foot from these shoes that were not the right size for me. I got the feeling back 3 weeks later.
Oh.
So, my lesson of the story, please don't pick shoes that are too big for you and just wear extra socks. It's not a good idea. My other damage was I decided I was going to make my lieutenant ring out of wood, was carving it, managed to slice my finger open. It was beautiful. I call this the gods of cosplay.
Sacrificing to the gods.
Sacrificing to the gods of cosplay. They demand sweat and tears on a regular basis, but occasionally they demand blood. And they must have lots of it. By the way, to end off this, I'd like to call attention to the fact that cosplay in America is in the room, and you should all buy his book because it's awesome. And Lionel's also in the room. And Leo, I think. So awesome people are in this room right now. Woo!
Famous photographer.
Yeah! So, anyway, that's our sacrifices to the cosplay gods, whom you should all appease on a regular basis, unless you want injuries.
Actually, the injuries are the appeasement.
That's kind of the problem.
Next
question.
Your 2 questions.
Yeah. First off, notice you have a marker on the board right behind you, so I kind of have a request. Could you write down internet URLs for places where someone who's relatively uninitiated can go to and sort of see some of the hot discussions about cosplay, something that's more in-depth.
Unfortunately, there is no such thing, really.
It's not centralized at all.
There aren't
Right.
that many places where you can have an in-depth conversation about
Oh, AC Paradise, yes.
AC Paradise is a great website.
Yes, yeah.
AC Paradise is like the best designed website for cosplayers.
Yeah. It's designed by cosplayers for cosplayers, but there aren't that many.
There's not a lot of really good discussion places because every forum pretty much I've been to that would discuss cosplay became a negative sinkhole where they just complain about how, well, this person's, the hem on this, blah, 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 and you're like, oh, I'm terrified to make a costume now. Or it's like, oh, I just don't like her, or gossip about people's, love lives, and you're like, this doesn't have anything to do with cosplay.
Every site is still its own scene.
So there's a gaping hole for this, I think.
Yet.
That's why I decided to do this panel, because there wasn't any place where people can come and actually voice their own opinions.
Okay. But is there any others besides those two?
Just for cosplay discussion?
Yeah,
or
more like discussion. Like somewhere where someone can see some in-depth interaction between people who are cosplayers.
It's still like a gaping hole. Like I said, there are cosplay forums, but some of them are very disorganized, and most of the ones I can think of are very negative. I mean, they're just very elitist, or they're just lost people that they want to start cosplaying, but there's not really other people to help them.
I mean, I'm young, but I would say there are younger people, like preteens, if you will, that get on those websites and don't really know what they're talking about, and then just kind of clog up the forums. So there aren't many people that go on there you could have, I guess, mature discussions with without someone getting angry and disagreeing, and the arguments go back and forth, and then it's like a sinkhole for arguing.
Brass goggles.
Well,
Go
ahead,
brass
Brad.
goggles.
Come write it, come write it. If any of you know a site, come write it up.
There's also a lot of costuming really is organized by genre. You'll get your steampunk, you'll get your anime costuming, you'll get your superhero costuming. A number of us here, cross genres, but the fact of the matter is, when you're looking at that, it's not a cosplay site. It's a anime cosplay site, or a superhero costuming site, or something like that.
I think we really need a Wikipedia kind of website, a site that people keep
like updating and
He's trolling you.
I was actually being serious.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, if you're just trying to find a question and something, that's going to be a problem.
You'll never find a catch-all forum.
Another option.
Phrase it 10 different ways.
Yeah. Another option, and this is, you'll have to be patient because people are busy. Find a cosplayer who obviously knows what you want to do. If you have some particular problem you need solved, email them. Eventually they'll get to you.
A lot of cosplayers get asked, like, hey, you made this costume, can you give me some tips?
Yeah.
And that's actually kind of a heated debate sometimes. Like, I used to read people be like, oh, how dare they ask me how I made my costume? I sweated over this costume. And I never really got that because, to me, like, you can tell someone, like, you know, I use these materials and stuff. I don't have to give you my pattern, you know. I don't have to, like, give you, and here, I'll just make another one for you, you know. Because if they put in, from my point of view, it's like, if they actually put in the time that I put in to make the costume, the same I did, then they deserve to make it. I mean, it's a skill thing, too, right? So, like, I do know that people usually do ask, like, cosplayers that already did a costume, they'll be like, hey, do you have any tips for me? And most people are right.
Whenever I put up a costume, I put up notes. And everything that I want to share about that costume, everything that I can't share about the costume, I put in the construction notes. And the construction notes are fantastic.
So it's like, if you want to know how I did it, there it is. You know.
Well, so I kind of get you my angle of where I'm coming from, is that I've been studying anime fandom for years, and cosplay has always been the sort of last frontier that I've never really explored so much.
Yeah, and the thing is,
There are no guidelines to cosplay. It's not where someone has written up the 10 commandments of cosplay. I might do that. But seriously, like, no one knows what's going on with cosplay. There are no rules, you know. Everybody just does whatever the hell they want to, and it's like, it's great freedom to an extent, but it also really can be very detrimental. You know, and I kind of wish that.
What you want, CA? What you got?
I just wanted to say something on the whole, like, emailing a cosplayer and being like, so how did you make this costume? And it's a really complicated costume. I don't know how to start answering that question. But if you're like, oh, did you use a base pattern? Where did you find it? What did you use? I'll answer that. What fabric did you use? I'll answer that. You know, how did you do this dyeing technique? I'll answer that. But if it's a costume that took me like 200 hours to make, it was like at least 40 different steps, and you say, so how did you make that costume? I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, do you want me to write you a novel?
I'm not advocating that. I'm advocating being specific.
Seriously.
Caroline's brings up a good point, too.
The questions you really want answered, and I'll answer them.
And something like that could actually take a really long time to answer. And you imagine, like, some cosplayers are getting a lot of emails. So also, I think it's important to stress, like, don't be upset if you don't get an email back, because, like, some of us are trying to get PhDs and stuff. So, like, I don't think it's ever meant to be insulting. I think
the only one here.
No, there was a couple other girls.
There's somebody else.
We have a secret club. We got a secret Tumblr account. Yeah, so I think it's, but you know, people get overwhelmed by all this information, so maybe they can't take an hour to answer it. That's probably why, like, Yaya says she makes the notes, and then she can always be like, go to the notes, you know, and she's already written it up once, and everyone can read it there.
Yeah, I guess in my case, it's more sociological kind of interest that I have in cosplay, and so, yeah, you're right. I mean, even general anime fandom, we don't really have a rules. Like, you know, people sort of do what they want within general fandom too. I mean, there's sort of conventions, well, not like AWA convention, but like standards, I guess. Thank you, social conventions. So it's sort of as if I really want to look at these in-depth conversations and maybe find something serendipitously. You know, I'm not really looking for something. I just want something to sort of hit me that looks interesting. Like when you were talking about race earlier, that's interesting to me because that's part of my research.
Then your best bet is probably these panels.
Yeah, I know that there have been, like, and now I can't even think of the name of them. Like, I went to the websites and I started on them, and they, like, I never went anywhere. But I know they have like kind of like Facebook sort of like cosplay sites, like, I don't know, Cospace.
Cospace.
I don't know if anybody uses it because I certainly did it. But Yeah, like I think, you might even just go to Google and search for cosplay social network, and I mean, maybe there's some websites out there that we just don't know about.
The best way if you want to do research cosplay.
Yes, just do
Just
it.
gotta cosplay, seriously. It's the only way.
There are two things. First, we decided if there is a 10 Commandments of cosplay, the first commandment will be thou shalt bathe.
Yes!
That's for everything. But second, if the other thing you can do, if you want to know, interview cosplayers. I've been interviewed a number of times. I know Yaya has, Elisa who just left.
This guy does that.
Yes.
The fact that
We're usually very willing to answer questions. You can give plenty of interviews. The superhero costume forums are going. We discuss a lot of that kind of thing, but for the most part, the cosplay is a section of a certain genre, and a lot of that discussion is going to revolve around the genre. There's no overreaching cosplay site.
Yeah, it's just that for my interview technique, I usually like to be immersed in a particular group, and then like if I'm doing the short interviews, that's no problem. Like 15 minutes, like 5 to 15 minutes. Hey, I can get someone standing in line at a registration line, no problem. But if I want to do an interview that's more like say an hour to an hour and a half, I like to kind of know the person for at least a few months or so, and at least I don't want them to feel like I'm just there just to get something from them, but rather we're having this kind of exchange during this longer, in-depth kind of interview and such. So
pick a character and go to work.
I think everyone here has had the experience of doing phone interviews for various people that have been trying to write books on cosplay for a while. But I don't know that any of those books ever really came out. Like we did, I don't even remember her name.
It's a
Related to this, sort of. I see you taking a record of this, right? Podcasts tend to be where I hear nerds having long conversations, so they're randomly coming across cool stuff.
Yes.
Like you guys having a conversation with yourself. It's kind of what we want to be involved in all the time. We want to sort of see into their world, and with forums you can engage in their world, right? You can stop lurking when you want to. But I'm sure you guys already are doing podcasts, some sort of show of a kind, right?
I know that there are like cosplay podcasts out there.
I mean, would that solve the?
I mean, I've got my friends here that are Anime World Order. They they don't do cosplay, but I mean, like, we're bros. A lot of those, podcasts are open to questions. Like, they'll have a question and everything, so, you can find cosplay podcasts and send in your questions, and they'll answer them on the show, or, they might, email you back.
Or they do a live ustream.
But
Sometimes do a live ustream where you can actually watch them in real time
I
chat.
think they usually wind up being bitching.
Yeah, I feel like there was a cosplay podcast once, and it was like, diva talk, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's not what we want people to think about, right? I know, I'm a journalist for Otaku USA magazine, and Yaya will be taking over for me very soon, and that's a magazine that's in Barnes & Noble, and one of the reasons why I took the job was because a lot of cosplay reporting, I was really frustrated that it was video games websites doing top 10 best butts in cosplay, the top 50 cleavage pictures. Some of these people were in. But it's okay, so yeah, I understand people want to see that. There is an audience for that. But that's not really what cosplayers want to read about, right? So we took that opportunity to work with this magazine and try to start incorporating here are some tutorials, or let's talk about serious issues. I would love to be able to do a web article that actually addressed the race thing, or addressed working with other people is a hard skill. I've heard a lot of sensitivity with groups being two people want to be the same character. What do? Someone has to sacrifice. Are we going to have two of the same character in a group? Well, that looks weird. Are we going to allow that? And that's difficult for people when your egos and your relationships with others come into play. So we're kind of hoping that our relationship with that magazine will allow us to talk about those things more in depth there. But it's been, and so definitely if anybody had questions they wanted to address or they had ideas for articles, you could come to Yaya and I. We could give you our email addresses because we want to hear that. Huh?
To what? The I and I?
Yaya and I. If you could talk to either of us about that, is what I mean.
The thing here is that cosplay is a constantly evolving experiment. As many times as you ask a question, you will get a different answer because it's something different to everyone. I mean, there are common themes for all of us about why we do this and how we do it, but you're going to get a different answer every time. So you're just going to have to live it like the rest of us.
And I did want to bring this up because it usually comes up, but it didn't come up yet in this one. A lot of people ask, like, why is there so much drama in cosplay? Like, we don't have that in our stamp collecting, or we don't have that in our fans. Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
First of all, yes, there's drama, I believe, in every subculture, but I've always thought that, and I think you guys will agree, that part of it is that this is a wearable art, and so it's not just the craft of what you do. Like, if you make an anime music video, no one needs to know your face or your gender or your race necessarily. But in this case, like, my face is in question. Like, the way my body looks is part of this experience, and people can critique that, and it becomes a lot more personal. And
it's like being a runway model. You're not only the artist, you are the hanger for your clothes.
Yeah, and I think that is a real big reason why there's a lot of sensitive feelings involved in cosplays, because, you know, you may really want to make an elaborate costume, but you know how cruel people can be about the way others look. Because, you know, you see how people are about celebrities and make their living based on what they look like. You can find a fault with anybody's face or anybody's body, and a lot of people aren't used to dealing with that. And I think a lot of us up here had to get used to dealing with that and being like, oh, well, someone says I'm ugly on the internet, can I be okay with it? Can I be like, this doesn't matter to me, this doesn't matter to me? It's not easy to deal with when it first happens, so. Do you have something to add? Oh, good. You're just smiling beautifully at me? Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to be right there and take notes on what you have to work.
Oh, well, my question is kind of off topic. I used to live back in Tempe, Arizona, and there was a convention there called, I think it's called Konnichiwa Con, something like that. And I have a friend that for some reason she really couldn't get into the cosplaying of a specific character from anime or video game. And she has a small webcomic that she does. And what she does is she cosplays the characters from there. And when the first time she wanted to get her comic book out and came as one of her costumes, some people were questioning, was that really cosplaying? Or was she just creating some type of character that she knew that she would fit?
Everyone's a fucking critic.
Well,
it's an original.
Yeah, original costumes are design costumes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a random character that you probably created from some small comic book, whatever, and bring it there.
Honestly, it's like kind of an awesome step further, because I think original cosplay is great. Like, it's a lot of fun, but I mean, it's kind of cool if you're making a web comic, like you already did that, and then you went a step further. And, you know, cosplay from that. I mean, really, like, haters gonna hate, whatever. You can't do anything about it. I mean, and, you know, I think it's great. Like, that's really cool that your friend did that.
Yeah,
Tell her to come here. I love on her.
Yes, but it was just during that time at the convention, the heat that she was getting from that, she didn't want to do it anymore. And the next year they came back, about 30 or 40 of my friends all went with her to the convention, and each and everybody dressed up as a character from her to first support her.
Well, I don't know if you were here earlier, but I think that goes back into like the culture of different types of events, because that at MegaCon, which is in Florida, or Dragon Con would be completely acceptable. Like, people would be like, you guys look really neat, where are you from? And she'd be like, we're from my comic. And so there's definitely, like, in anime specifically, in America, I would say, like, there's stigma where it's like people want to know the character you are, and they want to know you made it. And, like, that's really important. And I don't know, like, how that developed over time, but I think if she'd gone to, like, if she wants to hit more, like, sci-fi or everything conventions, it would be really supported there.
It was kind of you don't see that much at these conventions. Maybe not because somebody's not artistically inclined to do it, but somebody may see an art piece from DeviantArt that somebody has already done and decide to, oh, well, can I cosplay that character I've seen?
I've cosplayed a DeviantArt artist before. I mean, it's like sometimes you just see something that catches your inspiration. And she was delighted. It was a Korean artist, and we wrote to her, and she didn't have the best English, but she was so happy, like, that this happened. And
Always
we put
ask
in this
the
time.
artist.
Oh, we didn't ask.
You told her we're doing this.
I'm gonna go break in here.
We showed it to her.
We're down to the last 10 minutes before midnight. And the one issue I want to bring up is gender in cosplay. I'm sorry, we might get to the question, but this is one topic we did want to hit tonight, which is cosplaying as a guy versus cosplaying as a girl. It is a vastly different experience.
Start off, man.
And some of those one versus the other.
I'll say, all right. For one, you get a lot of guys, and the girls get this too, and we both hate it for different reasons, who will say, "Oh, when girls cosplay it's hot, when guys cosplay it's faggy." That is pretty much a quote. Yeah, and
apparently women only exist to entertain men. Who knew?
Yeah, and
I'm sorry. This is the 21st century.
And that's the problem, because we both work really hard. Both sexes work really hard at this to get into it, and we want to be recognized for our work. And as a guy, you're going to find it's very difficult to get recognized for your work. I mean, you're really going to have to do something spectacular or extremely dead on, or people to some degree are going to ignore you because you're not turning them on. That's just the thing about it. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I know what you're saying. But at the same time, girls have to deal with a lot more shit than guys when they're in costume.
It's too much to
So it's like, sometimes you really want this much attention, maybe it's better if you didn't.
And as a woman, you're always going to run into, there will be someone who is prettier or in a skimpier outfit, and your very, very awesome outfit there, everyone ignores you because, hey, she's hot. So there's all this weird sociological double standard gender studies, what the fuck is this going on?
I do think you can compare, for me, right, like I'm in a technical field, so there's very few women compared to men, and I also breakdance a little bit, and there's not that many girls breakdancing compared to men. I'm not that good.
You do it. That's more than enough.
Yeah, I totally love it. So I think one thing, actually, I was really excited about cosplay because to me, it was one of the few female-dominated hobbies that was really about skill. Like we've got girls making swords, working wings, making like things that steam, and like all sorts of crazy stuff. Things that steam. Yeah. I mean, it's just usually it's like the guys are more like into cars or into building things. So it was cool to see a female-dominated hobby that was all about building things and really like creating it's engineering. It really is. You're taking things that are 2D and making them 3D. Yeah, it's a very crazy skill, the things you see people doing, and I thought it was really awesome to see there were a lot of women. But I would also say just like how being a girl in a male-dominated field, it's like when you will stand out as a guy because there's not as many guys. But that also means when you do a good job, it's like people really do notice you, right? And there may be the people that watch it, and they might make rude comments like that, but people who are in the field, the other cosplayers, they really appreciate a guy who sews his own stuff. They really appreciate a guy who makes his own things with them or is really into doing these characters. And there's only one thing better than having a cosplaying boyfriend, and that's an identical twin. Most of us can't do anything about that. So, your girlfriend your cosplay girlfriend will adore a guy she can dress up and, we can actually make out because we're dating, I mean, that's
those who cosplay together stay together.
While the cosplay hobby is female-dominated, I still think there's a slightly greater proportion of guys at the actual cons. So the men, you have to do more to stand out. And as a cosplayer, part of what you want to do is stand out. Let's address the 800-pound gorilla in the room for a second. We enjoy standing out. We do enjoy the attention. Now, it's not just look at me. It's hey, I worked my ass off to do this, just as if I worked my ass off to get in the Olympics, and now I want to demonstrate my skill. But we do want to demonstrate it, and it's a little irking to see, when you put 50 hours into this costume, sat down, designed diagrams, did all this kind of thing, and that girl over there who picked up a bikini at some store is
I just want to say that it doesn't matter if you're a girl or a guy, because, if I'm wearing an outfit, if I'm Yoko, but I decided to do the Yoko from Girl in the God at the end of the series, where she's like wearing a full uniform, with like a long shirt. They aren't going to pay as much attention to me as a regular Yoko.
All right, fair enough. Good point.
It's
Listen, naked still sells.
I'd like to put in on that point.
Sorry.
Skin tight costume. Where am I putting my cell phone? Where am I putting my wallet? Where am I putting my keys?
Yes.
I love the costume.
Thank you, and I will answer that question because I can. My wallet, I don't have on me. My keys go in my boot, and my cell phone is tucked in my waistband because I'm wearing a dance belt, which I recommend for all men, by the way. But a dance belt has the additional feature, since the waistband is pretty tight, you can kind of slide your phone into the waistband and it'll stay. So I highly recommend dance belts for 2 reasons now.
Or a favorite trick of a cosplayer is to make a purse that matches your outfit. Like, if you're Princess Peach, you make a big, toadstool or a star, and you just, put a pocket in with a zipper, and you just put your stuff in there.
The third member of Miko for Kyo has been Cosmos twice.
Oh, wow.
And the second time, she built herself fake breasts. The hip sections carried the batteries for her LEDs, and her breasts were her purse.
Which is really fun when you ask your champion. Sorry. I also knew there was a couple girls I think that did plug suits, like Ray and Asuka plug suits, and it was opposite backpacks. So if it was 2 of us, my stuff's in her bag and her stuff's in my bag, so we could always get to each other. Yeah, you have to have a really good friend.
There is one other small thing that kind of relates to this that I want to say. It's scientifically proven that men will be temperature-wise hotter, warmer than women. Because let me finish before you laugh, because it'll be funnier at the end.
Okay.
The reason for this is there was a special about it where they did thermal imaging, and women tend to concentrate more heat towards the core as far as pregnancy and all that goes. That being said, why is it that the women's outfits are all skimpy so they're cold, and the men's outfits are all huge and voluminous so we're hot?
Do you really want me to answer that question?
Well, no, but I wanted to point it out as it is kind of funny.
It is. It's ridiculous. There's actually a great comic. I don't know if anybody saw it on Tumblr, but it's 2 women in plate mail, practical plate mail.
Women in practical armor.
Women, yes. Well, no, there's women in armor and women fighters. They're great Tumblrs. But anyway, these 2 women show up in plate mail, and then there's one in the proverbial chainmail bikini with the huge 80s hair and a broadsword and the thigh-high boots, and she's like, and the women in plate mail are looking at each other, and one says to the other, I think we should kill her on principle. I love the comic, even though, I can't advocate that, but it's funny.
Alright, there's one question caught up in my head, and to some of the gentlemen in the back, I'm going to have to apologize because y'all guys are going to hate me for this. But since we haven't really hit a very raunchy topic yet, I wanted to say, or ask, for the girls that do cosplay, if a guy was going to hit on you, what would be the proper etiquette to do so?
Speak to me like a human being. Don't say anything about my costume, damn it. Don't ask hey.
I just wanted to ask, on that note, my question earlier was, how do you deal with sexually inappropriate behavior? It's not as bad at AWA, except I've had teenagers try to kiss my husband, but at DragonCon, it's like an invitation to lecherous comments if you do anything out of the ordinary. How do you deal with that tactfully?
Tell me. I'll let them know it's not acceptable.
Safety buddy, you're at a con, so you shouldn't be by yourself anyway. So for the most part, try to always walk with a person. I guess it's like Atlanta at night, don't walk down the street alone. That's what they tell us at tech. I don't know.
Best story ever.
But
I would tell it if you'd let me.
Do you want me to tell the story?
Yeah, Carolyn, tell us the story. Carolyn, tell us the story.
Story time.
Nurse outfit. What do you do to get out of it?
Okay, so there's one DragonCon, and I had agreed to go to my friends to this Battlestar Galactica party. I hadn't watched the show at that point. I wasn't really interested. But I was fully like in full getup, like a vinyl nurse outfit, corset, big blue hair, the whole 9 yards, giant thigh-high boots with like 6-inch heels. And I'm walking back from the Sheridan, which is a good like 2 or 3 blocks from the main hotels. And I passed this group of guys, and they were just out there. You tell they weren't there for the convention, they were out freak watching, right? And I'm walking by, and they're like, hey lady, how you doing? Come holler with us, you come talk to us and whatnot. And I'm just like,
who said I was a lady?
What's the best way for a guy to hit on you? And then, also,
what do you do about it?
What do you do if it's like
It's harassment.
I guess okay. Well, I can be really sarcastic and mean, so that's usually what happens. But,
pretend like you don't speak English.
I mean, like.
That might not work.
Well, it's hard. I mean, every guy I've ever dated was like my friend, and he became my friend by liking my interests, you know? Like, I think, you know, of course you're flattered if someone comes up and says, oh, you look very beautiful in that. Beautiful is probably a better word than sexy or scary. You look very naked in that. Are you naked under that? But, like, you know, beautiful's a good word to use, I think. But you have to remember, like, a lot of cosplayers have had bad experiences with guys. Like, guys that followed them to their room, the guy who has the mirror underneath so he can take the panty shot, and, like, the guy that was pretending to be in the wheelchair so he could get the panty shots. The one you're a dragonfly. Maybe. And so, like, if you really want to get to know a girl, just remember, like, we can be a little timid. We're not trying to be cold or bitchy, but, like, it's happened before where really people have been inappropriate. So I think it's much better to start talking about, like, your interests. Like, oh, you really like that anime? I like that anime too. What kind of video games do you play? Like, I like to play this game where I ask someone their 3 favorite video games, and then I try to figure out what their personality's like based on that. So, like, just like, how would you make a friend that was a guy? Like, I think
you're meeting a new person, like a stranger. How would you approach that? Just because they're costuming doesn't really make it any different.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think like women like to feel like you're going to be friends too, right? I mean, so I think that's a good way to approach it.
Well, there's one thing. You say, how do you hit on women? Like, women are this monolithic group. Let me tell you something. They're all different.
Yeah.
I don't understand much else, but I know they're all different. Please. I know.
He's right. We're all different. There's not one answer, is what he's saying, right?
No, there's not. I mean, you're talking about, like, oh, how do I hit on women? Look, dude, women are all individuals. What works on one isn't necessarily going to work on another. What you do, go out there, be honest, be a bit, be sincere. Most of the time you're going to strike out, but you only got to get it right once.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's right. We always ask, well, how'd she end up with that guy, right? You know, you never know. So, you know, that happens to me. So,
my girlfriend gets asked that all the time, I'm sure.
So I have a question, because you're all, like, so you're adults, you're all mature, you're older. It's like, you know, so what do you think about the 14-year-old Yoko cosplays and the 14-year-old Black Rock Shooter cosplays? Because I'm like, man, it's like, I don't know, I should be selling things to you guys or not.
First, I'd like to say I'm insulted. But then, I'm kidding.
I didn't mean anything.
But now let me pass it off to somebody else on that bad joke.
I've always said that it's there's a level of, you know, appropriateness. You know, yes, we are bombarded with characters in skimpy costumes. You know, a lot of these video game characters and anime characters, they do wear very revealing outfits. They do, because they were designed by Japanese men who have no social skills and live in the basement.
I'm the honest person.
I mean, I'm serious, you know. I always say Masamune Shiro is my favorite Japanese artist, and he is a pervert. And he is literally like
you know, like the game industry is 15 to 30% women. It's that low. It's probably lower than you think.
All men. So it's like, in a way, yes, female characters are men's fantasies, but you have to just remember you are going in public. You are still in the real world. You know, you can't just decide you're going to dress like this character even though you're underage, you know, and just not understand what kind of effect it's going to have and how people are going to view you. So, I mean, again, I think that's the job of parents, job of, you know, friends to be honest with each other and be like, we really shouldn't. Yes, I know. I'm letting Monica talk first.
Oh, Monica! She was
As a guy, there's something I want to say. No, this isn't too much of a threat to me, but the fact of the matter is, if you are an underage girl and you look like you're 23, do not go up and start giggling some guy, because you're going to get him in a lot of trouble. Unfortunately, as men, well, yeah, you're right.
Ask for college.
But the fact of the matter is,
ask for college ID.
We're pathetically, genetically programmed to, you know, be really interested in girls when they're interested in us. So, you know, if you're underage, back off. You're gonna get this guy. You're gonna get this guy in trouble.
Wait, okay, let the underage talk.
Formerly
underage. Formerly
For me, that's like the fault of the parents. You know, like when I started out, my mom was like, "Is this costume showing a lot of cleavage?" Blah blah blah, asking me, you know, what am I showing? I guess. So I feel like the parent, you know, should be involved in their child's hobby and looking at, you know, their girl hanging her boobs out, you know, when she's at 14 or whatever. Because it's just like with regular clothes. I feel like your daughter walk out the street with some bikini and, you know, all her fangs hanging out, like, just inappropriate.
I've noticed I've seen a lot of kids here, but I've seen their parents with them too.
Yay!
And hopefully those parents are monitoring that behavior, because you're right, it goes back to the parent. If you're allowing your 12, 14-year-old daughter or son to come here and dress up and have a good time, you need to be watching, one, for lewd men, because there are lewd men who will be looking for them. But the parent is there to protect and to educate. So you just got to make sure, I think, that the parents know what's going on so they can watch out for their kids.
I just want to like briefly say that the parents do need to be here, because I hate to say this, but there are predators at these events.
I'm a social worker. I know there are.
Yeah, I mean, we know of people that like go here to find like 15-year-old girls and like.
Oh, I have a story.
Oh, I remember. I've been going to Dragon Con for 7 years now, so even before I started cosplay. And this was, I want to say, when I was 14, and I was wearing some costume, I don't even know. And I was talking to a friend, some guy came up, and he was kind of lingering around. He got a picture, then he walked away. And then he came back and was like, "Can I get your number?" And I noticed he was, I want to say elderly, but definitely not, you know, teenage. And so I was like, "I'm 14. He goes, "That doesn't matter." No, thank you. That's why you have friends who are to say, "Buddy, back up."
Yes, yes. Traveling numbers intact.
I think we only like 3 or 4 minutes left. So.
But I was going to say, we have a teenager here with us, and all of the grown-ups are like around her constantly. Because she's a beautiful young lady, and we're like constantly monitoring her for safety. There's like 20 of us.
But yeah, I mean, on that note, like I said, we only have a little bit of time left. Do you have a last comment?
I have a last question.
Go for it.
What is the wackiest experience you've ever had with cosplay?
No time to answer that. 2 seconds left. Another comment?
On the topic of lewd behavior and underage cosplayers, I don't know, maybe it's just because I've been reading weeaboo stories a little bit lately, but
Oh god.
I've been hearing more and more accounts lately of underage individuals getting up to rather lewd behavior, especially underage yoi fangirls. And it's kind of disturbing to me as a person, because I don't cosplay Hetalia, and I know that there's a lot of nice Hetalia cosplayers that wouldn't do anything horrible. But I'm actually afraid to cosplay a Gundam character that I'm planning on cosplaying Sunday because of some of the stuff I've heard happening to other Hetalia cosplayers. So I just wonder has that been a problem in the past? Am I just overseeing something that's current? Is it something that's growing as the
I think it comes down to how do you want to, it's common sense. It's, like, yes, there are people who don't quite live in reality who come to these conventions. It's their outlet. They escape to fantasy land. If they glomp you, if they violate your personal space, that's where you use common sense and you get your friends involved, you get security involved, you get whoever needs to be involved to remove yourself from that situation. And that goes for everything, I don't think it should stop you from wanting to cosplay a character that you like, but, it's just, like, I have done characters that are very revealing, but I'll do it at certain conventions during certain after hours, or I will do it for a photo shoot where I'm not actually out in public. You have to just sort of pick your battles and have a plan and just really use common sense to go about cosplay like anything else. And on that note, I think we should end it, definitely. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here, and we're going to try and do this again next year. Come back, bring your questions, bring your comments, bring your friends. Okay, so watch out, AWA.